Welcome back to the WSU Democrats podcast. Today we got a packed episode for you. We got the Prop 4 signature goal being met, allegedly. We got Operation Metro Surge in Minneapolis ending. We got Utah Republicans trying to pack the Utah Supreme Court, as well as the SAVE Act, which is a voter suppression bill that Trump is trying to get passed on the national level. So we'll start with the Prop 4. This is just from an article from ABC4. So as the 5 p.m. deadline passed on February 15th, the chair of Utah's Republican Party says he's, quote, very confident that the effort to repeal Proposition 4 has enough signatures in enough Senate districts to be on November's ballot. Party Chair Rob Axson said that Utahns for Representative Government, the group spearheading the effort, had turned in, quote, way more than 200,000 total valid signatures as of 5 p.m. on Sunday. The group told ABC4 that the remaining signatures turned in had been, quote, pre-validated, meaning they were checked against Utah's voter registration database to determine whether a voter was legitimate before being submitted. So I will just note here that the hope that we all have that all of these signatures are not going to be valid and all that, a lot of the ones that were turned in were pre-validated, and also I think we kind of underestimated how many people were holding on to signatures and then dumping them at the last minute. So we might not, like, that might be false hope to say, oh, well, it's just going to be invalid. But I'll go on. Pre-validating signatures helps ensure that fewer get rejected when they're verified by county clerks. It's too early to know whether Axson's confidence is accurate. Once turned in, county clerks have 21 days to get any signatures that come in between Friday and Sunday to the Lieutenant Governor's tracking website. So there will be a delay before final numbers come in. According to state law, the deadline for voters to remove their name is 45 days after it is posted. That means the deadline to know whether the initiative is qualified is April 22, and the deadline to learn the number of valid signatures gathered is March 8th. In other words, it could be as soon as March 8th to know whether the initiative qualified, or as late as April 22nd. Utah's Lieutenant Governor's office will make the official declaration. So we still have time if we want to set up a table to have people remove their signatures. That being said, I wouldn't want to create a table simply just for that, because I feel like optically it's not as good, because like it's just like we failed and now we're trying to pick up the pieces and all that. I think we could have the opportunity for them to remove their signature from the petition to see if that would make a difference. But either way, I think that it probably has gone to the ballot now, and now all hands should be on deck to defeat it in November. I mean, Prop 4 passed overwhelmingly, so to defend it, I mean, I think we should be able to win. I think with ballot initiatives especially, those are very winnable for Democrats in Utah. I would even say, and Dakota Worth made this point as well, even though Utah is a very Republican, Mormon state and all that, if there was an initiative on the ballot to ban abortion bans from the state constitution, I think that would pass. It might not be by a super overwhelming margin, but I think it would pass, because on the actual issues, a lot of Utah voters are actually more pragmatic, and they will actually vote for common sense legislation such as fair maps. So yeah, what do you guys think about this? Who wants to go first?
Do you know, I think I have the numbers right. I heard they need 147,000 signatures to get on the ballot, and now they're quoting they have like 200,000.
Yeah, well over 200,000 is what they claimed.
Yeah.
That seems, I don't know, it seems kind of overly inflated, and even questioning the validity of them, I feel like they'll still probably meet that mark, which is, again, not really fair, just considering how they got those signatures by just lying to people and confusing people and pressuring them.
They literally went to old people's houses and were like, hey, sign this, and didn't really tell them what they were signing.
Yeah. A lot of the question is especially how they acted here at Weber State, where they were just like, hey, sign this. It's anti-gerrymandering. Oh, cool. Can you tell more information about it? Nah. But you should still sign it, though.
It's
and then that's how they got so many of their votes.
It's anti-gerrymandering. Yeah. And they were just lying.
Yeah, they just sat there and, with a straight face, they'd sit there and lie. And then they would even get mad at us for having our, counter tabling. They're like, oh, well, they're bribing people. We had candy on a table for anybody who just wanted it. It wasn't you have to go repeal your signature to get candy. No, we just had it on there. We had 20 people walk up and just take a piece of candy.
Exactly.
And I've heard that a lot of candidates going out to get signatures to get their names on the ballot are having trouble because people are fed up with these Prop 4 guys, and they just think that everyone trying to get signatures is Prop 4, and they're just done with it. They don't want to hear about it anymore. So it makes it harder for anyone trying to get signatures for anything.
Yeah, and I think it's on the 24th. We're going to be doing a table with Dakota Worth, Rosemary Lesser, and Peter Crosby to get them signatures to get it actually on the ballot. And they'll actually be there to talk to the voters, and we can actually explain what they're signing and why they're signing it. Whereas these people they would just put something in front of your face and say, they would even say it's for Prop 4. A lot of the people coming up to us at the table said they thought they were signing something that was pro Prop 4, which is absolutely ridiculous. And then I'm very proud that, that 1 week where they were signature gathering and we posted up on Thursday, and then they had the table reserved for Friday and they just didn't show up, most likely because they knew we would be there, just stopping people from signing the petition. Because when we were there, they probably got very, very little signatures. We got definitely way more people to rescind their signatures than they even got signatures. So it goes to show that what they're doing is just completely wrong. And once any kind of scrutiny is put up against it, it completely falls apart. That's why no one was even voting for it. So the fact that they got all of these signatures through lying to people and saying all this shit, and then also to make it even worse, there is a glimmer of hope that they don't actually have, or they're worried that they don't have enough valid signatures, because they did send out a mass text to a bunch of people, including people who weren't even Republicans, and they didn't know who it's from, even though in the fine print it says paid for by the Utah Republican National, or the Utah Committee or whatever. That said, be careful about anyone asking for information about you signing the petition. There's a group doing it that's under a criminal investigation in another state. So it's they're trying to make it so if you approach someone and say oh, did you sign this? Do you know what you signed? Oh, you can remove your signature. They're trying to make it seem like that whole interaction, you shouldn't even enter into that because there's going to be some kind of fraud going on, or we're trying to get their credit card information or something like that. So they sent that out, and a bunch of people are just going to believe it because it's in super fine writing that it's from the Republicans, and they sent that out to tons of Utah voters. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
That's insane. They're over here shaking in their boots because they don't think they have enough valid signatures. So they're telling people, if someone asks you about it and starts talking, that's a criminal. They're going to steal your information. That gives me a little bit of hope.
To a point, how much of a sore loser do you have to be where you lose it got passed? And a few years later, you're like, no. But instead of voting in representatives to bring it back up, you have to go around and get signatures, and you have to actively lie to people to get them on the ballot. Come on, bro. Take your L.
Just take the L.
Yeah, if they were honest about it, they wouldn't get nearly as many signatures.
Yeah, we're so we actually don't care about Salt Lake City, and we don't want them to have fair representation, and we, the Republicans, just want to have majority vote. You want to sign here? I mean, they'd probably still get a bunch of signatures, but they wouldn't nearly meet their goal.
Yeah. And there was even Phil Lyman, who ran for governor against Governor Cox. He's more far right than Cox is. And he was criticizing the Utah Republican leadership because they were relying on the out-of-state signature gatherers rather than focusing on the in-state people. Because they're actually, believe it or not, there actually is a pretty good Republican infrastructure in Utah. Shocker, it's a red state. So why didn't they just focus on that? Because they'd be much more successful. And he even said recently, because when it was looking like on the 15th that it had passed or that they'd gotten enough signatures, he was like, I think there was a shift at the end of how they were collecting signatures where they actually started relying more on the infrastructure they had already built. They had Trump tell everyone to sign it. They had J.D. Vance tell everyone to sign it. And at first, it seemed like that didn't really matter, but I guess now we know going forward that these things are very sneaky, and that people aren't just reporting how many signatures they get within a reasonable time frame. They're waiting, and it seems like some people were getting it, and then they waited till the very last day to put them all in.
Yeah.
And in some ways, that gave us false confidence that it was never going to get enough signatures. So at least we know that going forward. Do you have anything else to say on this topic?
Just real quick, at that, on our campus, obviously we tabled against it, and we didn't really face much opposition apart from them just saying we're bribing people. But I know at other colleges, I was reading through their their Twitter, college Republicans were going out actively, and they were filling out packets and packets and packets. And so what I'm guessing is that what I think you're saying is right, where they just held on to these huge packets of people, and then they eventually just turned them in last minute they successfully tricked us. So
yeah,
and they were bribing people to collect the signatures.
Yeah,
so
out of state paid people. That's crazy.
There was in-state paid people too. They probably went, okay, broke college students. Don't really tell them what they're doing. Here's a bunch of packets, and then you'll get a bunch of money.
Yeah, there's no restrictions or regulations. I actually went to a meeting to get started for a signature gathering because if it was for Democratic candidates or legislation that I would support, then I would have no problem getting paid to go out and get signatures for that. And just seeing everyone that was there and how they explained it. I did go to one of the companies, it's called Gather, that came to campus and they tabled.
Yeah, I remember seeing them.
I have nothing good to say about their company, actually. They did it very much more professional. They educated the people there, way more than the other guys that we saw. And these guys weren't aggressive. They knew what they were talking about, but still, I mean, you only know as much as
they give you. I mean,
yeah, and as much as you're like interested in finding out yourself. So, yeah, there's no rules or regulations. But I was going to ask, do you know where the lawsuit stands on the map currently? And I heard that the Judge Gibson's map was not going to go through.
As far as I know, it is still going through.
Okay.
I haven't seen anything about, and I almost definitely would have seen that by now if it did.
Yeah.
The judge's map is still going through. That might just be people saying, with the Prop 4 signatures, but that won't affect the November ballot because the Prop 4 repeal will be on the November ballot. And if it passes, then the next election cycle, then there won't be the Salt Lake Congressional District. But we'll at least have one term of a Democrat in Congress, pretty much.
Okay.
Almost definitely. Unless, because there are other lawsuits that a judge could rule the maps like ineffective, but I find that kind of unlikely also because of how close the election is. But in the past, they tried to pass a constitutional amendment called Amendment D, and that was to make it so that it was in a way to work around Prop 4, but this was before they even trying to put it on the ballot, where they could say that whatever initiatives voters pass, the legislature can basically do whatever they want with that. And that was what Amendment D was supposed to do. But because the language was confusing and it wasn't publicized enough beforehand, it got stricken off the ballot. So even though it technically was on the ballot because they were already printed, all of the votes for it meant nothing. So there is a chance that a court could say, no, these are unconstitutional and we're going back to the old maps or something. But that wouldn't even make any sense. They'd have to print a whole bunch of new ballots. And judges take that into consideration too. If it's the whole congressional district, like if they strike down that one district, they're going to have to strike down the entire thing. They're going to have to reprint all of those ballots. Like it would just be a huge process. So I think either way, worst case scenario is that the repeal passes and we only have a 2-year term of a Democrat in the House of Representatives. But yeah. All right, we ready to move on?
Yep.
So now Utah court packing. So and this is from the Salt Lake Tribune. 2 new justices will join the Utah Supreme Court after the legislature, bitter from repeated legal defeats, passed a bill to expand the state's high court from 5 to 7 members. Utah Governor Spencer Cox, who will nominate the 2 justices, quickly signed the bill into law, his office announced Saturday. After filling the new seats, Cox will have appointed 5 of the 7 justices. Quote, I would err on the side that 7 seats of eyes reviewing the most complex and difficult issues our state has ever faced is better than having only 5 sets of eyes, said House Majority Leader Casey Snyder, R. Paradise, a sponsor of the expansion. Snyder, who said he is, quote, thankful for the men and women who serve on the court, also sponsored a resolution during a special session in December that, quote, condemns the Utah Supreme Court's activist rewriting of the Utah Constitution and a challenge to the state's congressional districts. In addition to dealing the legislature a crushing blow in the redistricting challenge, the courts have in recent years blocked Utah's ban on most abortions, temporarily stopped a law banning transgender girls from playing high school sports, and found the state's school voucher program unconstitutional. The Utah Judge Council had asked the legislature for 5 district courts, 2 juvenile court judges, an appeals court judge, and 2 court commissioners, as well as funding additional clerks, parole officers, judicial assistants, and other administrative staff to help alleviate the backlog at the lower courts. Last year, the council reported some district court judges had caseloads that were 130% of the optimal level and a backlog of more than 8,000 cases. Chief Justice Matthew Durant told the legislature on the opening day of the session that the Supreme Court had essentially no backlog and urged lawmakers not to expand the Supreme Court at the expense of those other needs. So he's basically saying, yeah, we have backlogs in other areas, but we do not at the Utah Supreme Court, so there's no reason to expand the Utah Supreme Court. So the court expansion bill is projected to cost about $6.7 million in the first year and $4.7 million each year after. Quote, we have a huge backlog in our district courts, said Representative Andrew Stoddard D. Midville, an attorney who argued against the Supreme Court expansion, we do not have a backlog in our appellate courts and especially not in the Supreme Court. The Utah State Bar also opposes expanding the Supreme Court and other bills that it said would, quote, fundamentally remake the state's judicial system. 2 states, Georgia and Arizona, expanded their high courts in 2016, both the result of an effort by Republican legislatures to change the makeup of the courts from Democrat-leaning to Republican-leaning. In the years since, the Arizona court has issued slightly more rulings, about 44 a year. The number of rulings annually from the Georgia court has decreased. So it goes to show, yeah, we should expand these other offices, but when it comes to the actual Supreme Court, from these other states, it shows expanding it doesn't actually make it so they hear more cases. In the Georgia's case, it actually decreased. And then I'll just go over a few bills because this is just one of many pieces of legislation aimed at overhauling the courts. So HB 392, which would create a new 3-judge constitutional court to hear challenges to laws passed by the legislature, has passed committee and is awaiting a vote in the House. The judges who would hear the cases would be chosen by Cox and confirmed by the Senate. So this is very troubling because basically the straight-up abortion ban they tried to pass, that would be heard by a 3-judge constitutional court who would be chosen by Cox and confirmed by the Utah Republican Senate. So therefore, if they get a law blocked, they could just send it to the constitutional court, and I think they could approve of it, and then it wouldn't be blocked anymore. So, sorry for every woman or anyone who has reproductive organs like that. Sorry, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's one of those things that sounds good on paper. Like, oh, expanding the Supreme Court would obviously allow them to have more cases. But, I mean, we clearly are seeing this is just not how it works. It's not effectively working the way it should. At that, although Spencer Cox doesn't seem like the worst governor, he is very much a longtime member of the LDS, and he is very much a Republican. He does do a lot of promoting of bipartisan dealings with, like, obviously his commercials has always been like, oh, well, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, this is where we agree, this is where we disagree. It's still, at the end of the day, he still has his own beliefs and his own interests first.
Like, no matter what, if one person votes on all 3 people, that gives nobody a fair chance because bro picked all these people who probably believe very similar things to him. So anybody who disagrees with him automatically just loses, takes the L because he picked people that he likes.
Obviously. I mean, if I was up there, I'd be like, okay, best friend. You think like me, but you think a little different, and you. All right, good.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's just clear from the Utah State Bar's testimony as well as others, like, it is just for political gain. Like, that's all this expansion is. So I'll go over a few more bills that are kind of similar that they're trying to push. So HB 262 would require judges to get 2/3 of the vote in their retention elections to remain on the bench. So before, I'm almost certain it was just a majority, just like every other election. Now they're saying it has to be 2/3, so that if enough MAGA are pissed off that they didn't ban abortion completely, then they can just get fucked, even though they won the vote. So that's ridiculous. HB 274 would remove defense attorneys and add prosecutors to the Utah Sentencing Commission, which sets penalties for crimes. The bill, sponsored by House Speaker Mike Schultz R. Hooper, is awaiting a House vote. Wow, that's interesting. That's a little bit of a different topic, but they're removing defense attorneys and adding prosecutors to the Utah Sentencing Commission to make it less fair and just probably sentence people to more time in prison. And then HJR 5 seeks to amend the Utah Constitution to allow the governor to nominate anyone he wants to fill a court vacancy and not be limited by recommendations from the Judicial Nominating Commission. And then the last one, HJR 13, is a proposed constitutional amendment that would allow the legislature to force a judge to an immediate retention election if lawmakers believe the judge is, quote, incompetent or has overstepped the court's authority. So that would be Judge Diana Gibson, in their opinion. So, because incompetent, that's pretty broad thing. You could just say they're
subjective.
incompetent.
I mean,
yeah, exactly. So
literally, it's going to be, you don't think like me, I don't like you, bye-bye. That's what they're going to do.
It's completely unfair, and it's, I mean, subjective. Like, hello, incompetent? I feel like this random Democrat's incompetent. Let's get him out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just
So has the current
ruling.
court had any kind of quarrel between them, and they're not all on the same side, and that's why they're adding the 2?
No, I would say, I mean, I'm not like an expert on this. I don't always fully look at, especially the Utah Supreme Court, what all of the sides they are that voted on it. It seems like, maybe I'm wrong, but most of the time they vote pretty unanimously.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe there are some detractors, but the two that Cox will put on there, I'm pretty sure he'll make sure that they are not, because the other ones, they were appointed by Republicans too, but it's not your grandfather's Republican Party. Now they're just all out for power, and so they're completely different. So the Utah State Bar said, while each proposal is presented as a narrow change, together these bills operate as an overhaul to how judges are appointed, retained, and pressured while on the bench. The combined effect weakens longstanding safeguards that protect judges from political retribution and undermines the public's right to a judiciary that upholds the rule of law without favor. All right. Do you have any more thoughts on that?
Oh, good.
I mean, it's pretty cut and clear. It's like actively screwing over Democrats in Utah.
Literally just going, you don't think like me? Bye-bye. That's all it's going to do.
Republicans are getting real bold after Trump took office. And, I mean, a lot of them are starting to see midterms are coming up, and they're not liking how it looks for them, so.
Yeah.
That's a good point. They're trying to do whatever they can now to give themselves a chance.
I mean, can I blame them? I mean, Texas is turning blue, and if you're losing Texas, you got some big problem going on. So I mean, I'd be grabbing for power if I could as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that Senate seat, or what's it? Yeah, it was in the Texas State Senate.
Yeah.
That had flipped. That district was huge. Like, it's bigger than the congressional districts because they only have a very small amount of state senators in Texas.
Yeah.
So it's a massive piece of land.
Huge area.
That
and
he was able to win.
It's straight farmers. I'm pretty sure it's West Texas. It's nothing but straight farmers and rednecks. I mean, I've been through the area. They have these giant Trump flags out there. They'll say Trump 26. But if you're doing something bad where that area is like actively losing faith in you, I mean, you got another big problem. That area has been red for like the past 150 years.
Yeah, now voters are saying that Biden was a better president than Trump, and they fucking hated Biden.
Yeah, Sleepy Joe.
I think there's no stopping the blue wave that's going to come in the fall.
Oh, yeah. Plus, Texas senator going up for in the federal level. I'm hoping is he going to be Jasmine Crockett or James Tallarico? Because I mean, no one likes Ted Cruz. Their own Republican Party doesn't like Ted Cruz. So I mean,
I want Tallarico.
Yeah, I like James Tallarico. Yeah. He's who I'm going for.
I don't really have an opinion on that. I think Jasmine Crockett's cool.
I mean, she's really cool. I see if I had it my way, I'd have her still in the House of Representatives, and I'd have him as the senator. I really like Jasmine Crockett, but unfortunately, they're going for the same seat. So
yeah. Okay. Ready to move on?
Yep.
And talk about Operation Metro Surge ending. So the U.S. immigration enforcement surge in Minnesota will end, President Donald Trump's border czar told reporters on Thursday. Tom Homan said Trump had approved his request to conclude the operation, adding he would stay in Minnesota, quote, a little longer to oversee the drawdown to ensure its success. And this is from the BBC, by the way. Homan said Operation Metro Surge had resulted in many illegal immigrants who had committed violent crimes being detained for deportation. But the surge also sparked nationwide protests when two U.S. citizens, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, were killed by immigration officers. After the news conference, top Minnesota and federal officials appeared at a Capitol Hill hearing on Trump's immigration crackdown. He said that the surge's end came after an unprecedented level of cooperation between federal agents and local law enforcement, with local officials increasing their crackdown on protesters. He called public safety threats and local jails more willing to notify ICE of the release dates for the individuals it was seeking. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz said at a news conference following Homan's announcement that he was, quote, cautiously optimistic about the drawdown of federal agents. Quote, the fact of the matter is they left us with deep damage, generational trauma, Walz said. They left us with economic ruin in some cases. They left us with many unanswered questions. The governor is expected to soon propose a $10 million emergency fund for small businesses who say they were financially hurt by the surge. Following the fatal shooting of Alex Preddy last month, President Donald Trump dispatched Homan to Minneapolis to oversee the surge, sidelining the operation's leader, Greg Bovino, who had faced intense criticism for ICE's use of force and what many in the city alleged were civil rights violations. So basically, this isn't exactly Trump just rolling over, because there was some cooperation from Minnesota, but there's no doubt in my mind that a lot of this is actually because Trump doesn't like it, that his approval rating is basically the lowest it's ever been.
It's plummeting.
It's at like
It's
39%.
like straight down.
Some I've even seen some polls that say it's at 36%.
I remember it
So,
was lower.
I mean, I'd be surprised if I saw one lower than 36, just because there is like a floor there with a bunch of MAGA. But so what's happening is, and this is what happened during the Obama administration too, this is partly why Obama had so many deportations, is they would pick up the migrants from the jails that they were detained at, and then they would take them from there. Now that's a lot better than just, you know, breaking into someone's house without a judicial warrant and just taking them off the street, or, you know, doing all these things that will put them into confrontation with protesters and then they murder the protesters. Like, it's much better, especially if they're already in jail. There's a good chance that they've actually committed a violent crime, and in that case, they should be deported.
Because this would be if they're in jail for the crime and not detained because of their citizenship status. Yeah, okay.
Because as far as I'm concerned, like the police, they typically won't arrest you. Well, no, they won't arrest you for immigration related things, because that is ICE's job.
Yeah.
And and the police, they uphold state law and all that, and local ordinances. But yeah, someone will be in jail for a crime, and they'll say, "Oh, hey, this person's undocumented," and they come pick them up. That's a lot better of a situation, I think, because I do think that people who actually commit crime in this country who are undocumented, you should probably be sent back. And that might be a hot take, but
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Especially violent crimes. It's, I mean, come on.
Violent crimes, big no-no. If they're like stealing bread to feed their families, okay, let's figure out why.
Yeah.
Let's try to fix that problem.
Like, it's a lot of the things of, like, if you see a mother stealing like baby formula and diapers, you're not gonna like 911.
that?
Yeah,
You
I
didn't
see
see
this,
anything,
this
okay?
woman. Like, no, you obviously you ignore those kinds of things.
Exactly. But then like them trying to, you know, detain little kids,
Yeah,
that's a no.
Or just,
That's
like
no
straight
for
up
me.
American citizens because they
Literally
thought
straight
they
up
looked
American.
illegal. Like, they thought they looked illegal. I was like, come on.
It's giving 1935 Germany. I don't like
Yeah.
it.
Additionally, it's
I'm
just
no.
I mean, it's just really embarrassing to see how many times they mess up. And then oftentimes you'll hear people be like, "Oh, well, Obama deported more." I was like, "Okay, great. Yeah, but he did through the proper processes, and American citizens weren't killed in the streets. We didn't have world record breaking protest against Obama."
Literally.
And they're like, "Oh, well, we didn't have leftist terrorists." No, we never had leftist terrorists.
That's not a thing.
We just didn't attack people like that.
Exactly.
And at that, he had this 5-year thing where, like, if you were here 5 years, you hadn't committed any crimes, you can get, like, I think it was like some expedited thing where you could stay here legally while you still get your work,
Yep.
like, where you work on your citizenship.
Yeah.
and sorry, you go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, all I was going to say was a lot of the people that were deported under Obama were actually people who were turned away at the border. He got sued for that as well. Because technically, if someone is seeking asylum like that, you basically have to let them in and process their case, because you have a right to asylum in the United States. But he did turn some people away. And actually, if you guys remember, back in 2024, when you guys remember, it's kind of funny how things change, because there was all this outrage from the right about open borders under Biden. And they were saying, "Oh yeah, he's just letting all these people in and stuff like that." So Biden was like, okay, eventually he was like, "I'm going to get with this Republican senator from Missouri, James Lankford, and we're going to create a bipartisan immigration bill that's actually pretty like strict, which is if things at the border get a little bit too chaotic, they can literally shut down the border. No one gets through." And you may think that's something they could already do, but no, that you can't unilaterally shut down the border like that. But he tried to pass that legislation, and Trump said that because he thinks that would help Biden in the election, because obviously this is when he was still in the race, he said, "No, tell the Republicans to sink it." And then the Republican senator that co-authored the bill, he was pissed off. I mean, rightfully so. So Trump literally sank a bill that is supposed to be more pro their stance on immigration for political purposes, and then they act like, and then that forced Biden to take executive action, which then decreased the amount of border crossings from however much it was to the beginning of his presidency. So there's different things to do. Like, I am not necessarily opposed to that. Like, if it is chaos at the border, like there are so many people trying to come through and it's just a chaotic situation, then I think we should be able to shut down the border. I think that's just makes more sense. So, we just don't have chaos, basically. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, and I understand the risk of it possibly being abused, but it's still a safeguard regardless. But back to like previously what happened with Trump, that's a lot of what he does, where he'll get this idea. He's like, wait, I need to get into power. I need to grab as much power as I can. Let me screw over my own Republicans. Let me screw over my own candidates. Let me screw over people who are going to help me in the long run just because I want quicker temporary power.
Literally, he's just trying to obtain power so that he can't get in trouble for the stuff he's doing wrong.
Yeah. Like he ran on the whole, we'll release the Epstein files. We need to save the kids.
And now he's over here like shh, guys, I'm not in it. I've never been accused of being in it.
A month later, he goes, well, I was actually an FBI agent helping the agents. And then a month later, he goes, there actually are no Epstein files. And a month later, he goes, oh, you're talking about the Democrat Epstein file? He genuinely just keeps building on it. And then now he's just like, why are y'all still talking about the Epstein files? We're not hungover. We're not going to skim past the kids that were trafficked and raped. Like,
and
hello?
Literally, Eden.
Yeah.
Have you read any of the files? But then he's over here like, no, I was never accused of being in the files, guys.
Mind you,
that's fake news.
His name appears more than Harry Potter does in the 8 books about Harry Potter.
Literally facts. Literally.
So it's just like he's actively in there and he's sitting there just like, no, I'm not. Now, I will admit, one of the things that came up in the Epstein files in more recent pages had been where he called the cops on them, where he called the cops on Epstein. And then he goes, yeah, everybody knows he rapes kids. But then one, that proves that he lied previously because he had said, oh yeah, I never knew that. That never happened. And then that also shows that he had information on it. And after that incident, he still allowed Epstein to continue to show up to Mar-a-Lago, which means he called the cops, knew it was happening, and still let Epstein show up.
And the only reason he's probably still let that happen is because there was literally pictures of him with Epstein, and he's like, no, I never met Epstein once in my life.
And you'll hear a lot of the right say, oh, well, you can't take a picture with a celebrity? Yeah, there's like 50,000 pictures of Trump with him. Obviously, that's an exaggeration, but he's there with him. I mean, that was his friend. And how bad of a person do you have to be where Epstein, talking to his, I think it was Ghislaine Maxwell, he goes, yeah, Trump, he's like one of the worst people I've ever met in my life. If Epstein's calling you evil, I mean, you got a different problem.
He wouldn't be saying that if there wasn't some kind of sexual abuse type shit going on.
And with all the terrible stuff he says about women and girls, like you just put 2 and 2 together. Like I was at my friend's apartment's hot tub and there were a bunch of people there and I overheard a conversation between 2 guys, and just goes to show the misinformation that's out there, because he was trying to tell his friend that Trump was not related with the Epstein files because one of his reasons was that Trump banned Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago resort, but this was after he was convicted, and this was just to preserve his own case, right? We saw this a lot recently with this new dump of Epstein files, where a lot of people said they said previously that they cut ties with Epstein, they hated him, they never hung out with him, all this stuff, and then you see the dates and the email exchanges, you see the receipts from the Epstein files that say
they hung out like a week
after they said that. Yeah, they then invited him to a Valentine's party or invited him to a birthday party or something like that. So
which political leader was, but someone like they were taking a cruise and they stopped at Epstein's Island for dinner, and then like went on their merry way. And then like a month prior to that, they were like, "Yeah, I'm never gonna talk to Epstein. He's a piece of shit." I'm like, what? They just actively lying.
Yeah, one of them, I can't remember who it was, but he said that he cut ties with Epstein, hated his guts, whatever. And then with the release of the Epstein files, we saw that after he had said that, he then took his whole family on a vacation to Epstein's Island, which is just sickening. And then there was more talk about how Epstein was expressing interest in one of this guy's maids that they brought with, one of the family maids. He was expressing interest in her. So, I mean, clearly everyone's just lying to cover their own asses.
Yeah. And something I will say, because we were talking about like how Trump, all he wants is power and stuff like that. And I think that is true, but I think it's a little bit more complex than that. I think that he has a very childish mind. And hence why, like, when he lost the 2020 election, I think Biden's right when he said he thinks something snapped in Trump when he lost. And I think that's kind of true, but I think he was kind of like that either way, where he's going to say it was rigged, because that was not a politically advantageous idea of him. I mean, it led to the January 6th insurrection. He got impeached again. He had like, I can't remember, was it like 5, 6, 7 Republican senators voted to convict him in the Senate after the January 6th. as well as it's just poisonous. Like just saying that the 2020 election was rigged as like a reason to vote for them.
He's still
like,
on that, by the way. Like he won't admit that it was a fair election.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and then in 2022, in the midterm election, the first midterm election after 2020, he handpicked a bunch of candidates in all these swing states, and they all just got their shit fucking kicked in by the Democrats, partly because of the election rigging conspiracy, and he still stood by it, and he still would say it. And so I think he's probably smart enough to know that stuff like that isn't good for him, but he doesn't care because that's his ego and that's what he actually cares about. So he does care about power, but not when it conflicts with what he wants on like a visceral level. Hence why like the ICE thing, I don't think he gives a flying fuck about that. Like hence why he's fine, ending Operation Metro Surge, kind of being like, I think he said, they were like, oh, is there anything you learned from Operation Metro Surge? And he was like, yeah, maybe need a lighter touch sometimes and all that. It's like, yeah, you're saying that because you don't give a flying fuck and you're just trying to do whatever make you popular. Like, they wanted to deport all those people and have that agenda because that's what all the white nationalists wanted. And he thought that's what will make him popular. But nope.
Yeah, he cares a lot about his ratings, and that comes before all else. And you have people like Nick Fuentes who say that under Biden's 4 years, he let in 10 million illegal immigrants. And, someone like him is very frustrated with Trump because his enforcement of ICE has deported a fraction of that and nowhere near where they want to be at with those numbers. And then, you have the left obviously frustrated with ICE for other reasons. So on both sides, it's just not going well for him.
All right. So we have anything else to say about ICE or even Epstein? Well, yeah, we could talk about Epstein if you have that.
Yeah, I could talk about Pam Bondi.
Okay.
So
that
absolute
tragedy, just sitting there and lying under oath.
So Pam Bondi testified before the House Judiciary Committee on her handling of the Epstein files. She was drilled for almost 5 hours where she defended her DOJ and the Trump administration. She refused to look at and apologize to Epstein's victims that were in the courtroom. And she used the term theatrics many times to describe those who were asking her questions and just said, I'm not here for your theatrics, and threw that around a lot to try and, make it seem like they were all a joke. So Representative Jerry Nadler of New York, he sparked a fiery clash by asking how many of Epstein accomplices she had indicted, which is none. But Bondi responded by noting the Dow Jones Industrial Average topped 50,000, the S&P 500 neared 7,000, and the NASDAQ is smashing records under President Donald Trump. So I did fact check those. So the Dow Jones did cross over 50,000, 50,000. S&P 500 did not hit 7,000, and the NASDAQ is not smashing records. So she pretty much just deflected, didn't want to answer that, and said the economy is doing so well. And she kept saying, we should be focusing on Trump's wins. We should be focusing on how good everyone's Roth IRAs are doing, how good the economy, it's booming, all this bullshit. When the whole purpose of the testimony is to talk about the Epstein files, and she acts like it's so ridiculous that that's the topic. At one point, one representative said, and now we're going to go back to you. And Pam Bondi replied, I bet we are. Sarcastically.
Yeah, you're there testifying.
She goes, well, that's why you're here. You're testifying. Of course we're going to go back to you. This whole thing is about you. I mean, it's just ridiculous how dumb she was playing. And Bondi also said, you should all be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. She also said that Trump is the greatest president in American history. Just all these crazy claims. And then throughout the entire hearing, there was just this continuous pattern of she was asked a question. She began to answer it by completely switching the topic because she doesn't want to actually answer the question. And then when the speaker, the person who asked it, tried to reclaim their time, it just turned to this shouting match, arguing, and just full on chaos. She's again, like I just said about Trump, she's growing more and more unpopular with the Republican Party. Obviously, the Democratic Party hates her guts. So hopefully she gets impeached, I don't know. We'll see. There are some people on the Republican Party calling for her impeachment.
Yeah, she's doing a bad job. Like, playing devil advocate here from the Republican side, if someone went up there to defend me and I obviously committed a crime, and someone would ask you questions like, hey, did Micah commit this crime? And you're like, oh, okay, but have you seen the stock market? What? That makes you look awful. Like, that genuinely makes you, like, one of the worst things you could do. Like, that's very obvious deflection. And then she kept, like, she was so dramatic. She was like, oh, another question about Epstein. Oh, yeah, that's why you're here. And it just all of her boys just, like, they looked awful. Because even if she, like, it generally would have performed better if she just sat there and lied. Which, I mean, she did. She's like, yeah, there's no evidence of Trump being a criminal in the Epstein files. Really? That's where people are like skeptical of her lying under oath, because there is a bunch of evidence with him, and then people want to know that constitutes as evidence of being a criminal with him. Because if you do count that, then yes, she did lie under oath, like straight to the U.S. government's face.
Yeah,
But
and
then
she said that Trump, there's no evidence that Trump has committed any crimes. And then the representative from California, I can't remember his name, I really like him, Liu, is his last name?
Yeah, Liu.
Yeah, and he said to her face, I believe you just lied under oath. And she goes, how dare you accuse me of a crime?
Yeah, she said.
Yeah, I love that. I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime. That's
Yeah,
what she said.
when you push back like that, I mean,
It just makes you look awful.
Yeah,
I genuinely, I think it would have
screams
preferred
even
better if she
louder
just
that-
just didn't talk the whole time, and that would have probably gone better for her.
Yeah,
I plead the fifth.
yeah.
You go to a
But-
hearing to say you plead the fifth. I mean, you could. Better than going to jail because you got subpoenaed, but I don't even think she got subpoenaed. She just
That's probably
voluntarily
what
came.
Maxwell will do if she gets a pardon.
Yeah.
She'll just not be any help at all. But then with Pam Bondi, we know that she has redacted names of co-conspirators, and she has not indicted anyone who we can see has been a part of Epstein's whole scandal.
Yeah,
So,
I believe. Go on.
or, yeah, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
believe one of the really popular ones of the files was released. It was this email, and the person who sent it is redacted, but we get to see it's for like to Epstein. And it's like, oh yeah, one of your naughty little girls.
Yeah.
She was amazing last night.
You
The
said
youngest one.
Your littlest.
Yeah,
Yeah, your
littlest
littlest
one.
one.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Yeah.
okay, why did you block her name? Oh my goodness, are you still talking about Epstein? Yes, we're still talking about Epstein. What?
You're in a hearing for Epstein. We don't want to hear about the economy. We want to hear about the political figures that are pedophiles.
And it's like, oh, you should be ashamed. The stock is doing great. Yeah, okay. What about the kids that are like have trauma for the rest of their lives?
Yeah,
So,
and then
like-
another thing that Liu pressed her about was that there's multiple people in the files who reached out to the FBI and gave their testimony, gave a witness, and the FBI has never contacted these people or reached out for an interview. Someone who has hard evidence and would be a viable witness to some of Epstein's crimes, and they're not taking any action for these people to actually help indict others.
Yeah, I think it's just fucking ridiculous how Pam Bondi acts. Like, she took the whole Bill Clinton thing where he said during his campaigns, it's the economy, stupid, so just focus on the economy. That's how you'll get voters. That's how you'll win. And then she took that to like, oh, let's just distract from a huge pedophile ring by saying that. I don't know if Trump had to have signed off on her saying shit like that.
Yeah, I know, but at least
Like,
read what like
So
what they gave her.
he is so stupid for doing that, because that just made him look way worse. Like, yeah, we should talk about the economy and affordability and all that. That's a big reason why like Mamdani was so powerful and all that, was because of the focus on affordability. And that's why Trump is so unpopular, is because he focused on, oh, we're going to have no inflation. We're going to have gas prices so cheap. We're going to
We're gonna be tired of
grocery
winning.
prices.
I'm tired. All right.
Yeah, I'm tired.
Yeah, grocery prices are going to come down, and then it didn't happen. So then everyone's pissed off at him. So yeah, we should focus on the economy, but not at the expense of some serious issue like the Epstein files, which is just a huge ring of people who, with impunity for a long time, and a lot of them still haven't been indicted. I mean, like they said, really no one in the Epstein files has been indicted. So, like, well, other than like Epstein himself got indicted, but
Almost makes me
Epstein and
wonder.
Maxwell, that is
Yeah.
it. Those
Yeah,
are
it makes
the
me wonder
only two.
if Epstein was here. Because of the nature of how he was talking to Ghislaine Maxwell, I genuinely feel if Epstein was still alive, he'd be sitting across the table pointing the finger right at Trump.
Oh,
He'd be sitting there and be like,
Yeah.
this guy, he was with me the whole time. Oh, the whole thing. Yeah, right here with me.
literally.
Well, he did get killed in 2018.
Yeah.
So that was when Trump was in office.
He would be pointing the biggest finger. There's no way he would be telling people how horrible of a man Trump was.
And then
If he wasn't,
and then
like-
he'd sit there and lie before Congress. No, he
No.
wasn't there. The guy that was with me like almost all the time, he wasn't there when I raped kids. He like walked out the room. Don't worry, it's fine.
There's actually a really eerie moment when I think it was either the FBI or some kind of law enforcement interviewing Jeffrey Epstein, and they asked about Trump. And for a second there, you can see in his face, he just sits there for
He
a
thinks-
second.
and he's like, I
then
plead the
he's
fifth.
like, yeah, that's low key terrifying because he's probably through his memory just thinking about all the shit that Trump had done on Epstein or either on Epstein Island or whatever. There's an allegation that he raped a girl in the 90s at Epstein's New York apartment with him. So he wouldn't have even had to go to the island. He just goes to his own beauty pageants from his own admission that he preys on women there. So yeah, do we got anything else to say here, or should we go on to the SAVE Act?
Yeah. I mean, that loser is just, that's just a fat L. Like, realistically, let's say I was the corrupt individual and I sent somebody up there. Like, let's say I sent Vaughn up there. I was like, all right, Vaughn, you know I'm in trouble. Just bullshit around it. Make me sound good and just do what you can. And he goes up there, he's like, why are you still talking about this guy? Like, bro, like the second he got out, like, what are you doing? Just actively selling.
Yeah, and just so you know, the campus affairs director position is supposed to be kind of like the attorney general type shit.
Okay.
So if we ever are in a situation,
I got you. Don't worry. Somebody asked me, yo, did Ethan ever do anything bad? Oh my God. Okay, but you see Weber has new dining options.
See, we have 100 members. See how much views our podcast got, bruh?
Just think they're like moving to Starbucks or something.
Yeah, they're
See
having
that
a new bubble
walkout we
shop.
did? That's pretty funny. Okay. So now the SAVE Act. So first of all, I'm going to go over a summary of an article by the Bipartisan Policy Center, and then we're going to use Fox News.
We actually?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Just because I figured it would be okay because we are a liberal type shit. So if they're a little bit more conservative, we'll balance it out.
Nice
'cause we
balance
know-
out.
Yeah.
It's the greatest law ever passed. No.
It's actually not too bad, but so from the article from Bipartisan Policy Center states that the U.S. citizenship is already required to vote in federal elections, and the documented cases of non-citizen voting are extremely rare, citing state checks like Utah's 2025 to early 2026 review and federal verification data to support that claim. It says the SAVE Act's requirement that voters provide documentary proof of citizenship could block many eligible citizens who don't have easy access to documents like passports or birth certificates, or whose documents don't match their current name, like married women, for example. It points to Kansas as an example where a proof requirement reportedly prevented tens of thousands of eligible citizens from registering, despite non-citizen registration being very uncommon. The article recommends back-end verification, having government agencies verify citizenship through existing records rather than putting the burden on the voters. It also warns that the SAVE Act could create confusion and inconsistent administration, especially for mail/online registration, increase legal risk for election officials, and be difficult to implement quickly without more time, guidance, and funding. So they want proof of citizenship and an ID, basically, to vote in all elections. That's what they want to mandate. And then I'll go into how this is going on Capitol Hill. So Senate Majority Leader John Thune from South Dakota is ready to put Senate Democrats to the test on voter ID legislation. The Safeguarding America Voter Eligibility Save America Act has earned the backing of 50 Senate Republicans, including Thune, which is enough to break through a key procedural hurdle. Whether it can pass from the Senate to President Donald Trump's desk is for now an unlikely scenario if lawmakers take the traditional path in the upper chamber. Still, Thune wants to put Democrats on the spot as midterm elections creep closer. Thune viewed the opportunity of a floor vote as a way to have Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer from New York and his caucus explain to voters why they would block a legislative push to federally enshrine voter ID and proof of citizenship to register to vote. We will make sure that everybody's on the record, and if they want to be against ensuring that only American citizens vote in our elections, they can defend that when they have to go out on the campaign against Republicans this fall, Thune said. But the political makeup of the Senate will prove a tricky path to navigate if Republicans want to pass the bill. Though the majority of the Senate GOP backs the bill, without at least a handful of Senate Democrats joining them, it is destined to fall victim to the 60-vote filibuster threshold. And Schumer has time and again made clear that he and the majority of Senate Democrats viewed the legislation, which passed the House last week, as a tool of voter suppression that would unduly harm poorer Americans and minority groups. So Senate Republicans are looking at their options. One, which Thune already threw cold water on, is nuking the Senate filibuster. The other is turning to the talking or standing filibuster. It's a physical precursor to the current filibuster that requires hours upon hours of debate over a bill. So it does seem like they're not going to nuke the filibuster. This was something that that the Democrats floated when they had full control of government back after the 2020 election. But they didn't end up nuking the filibuster for example, they wanted a $15 minimum wage, which they never got. And so that was one of the reasons why they wanted to nuke the filibuster for the 60 vote threshold, so that it could just be a simple majority. Because if it was just a simple majority, I mean, the Republicans have 51 votes. There are a few Republicans who are against this bill, apparently, which is good. But I find it unlikely that they would do anything to the filibuster, because I think they know, especially with there might be a blue wave incoming, how they could, the Democrats could use that, and they would just be so, not okay with that. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility that they would ever nuke the filibuster. They might, but I don't think they will in this case. So I think that the Save America Act will fail. I don't think it'll pass the Senate. And Trump has already signaled that he might be taking executive action to try to implement some of this stuff, but he has really no authority to do that. So I'm not all too worried about that, but he wouldn't be saying stuff like that if he thought it would pass. So yeah, there's no way they're going to clear 60 votes for that. And the reason why I would be against this bill is because voter ID to register to vote, is already, when you register to vote, you put your name on there and everything, you put your address when you vote, you do all of these things, which the government uses to check whether you are a registered voter, and they use it to check, whether this person voted illegally, whether they were eligible to vote, all these kind of things. That's why the article talked about back-end verification, where the government can actually verify whether someone is a registered voter rather than the person providing ID and all that. Just like how in the, I guess to register to vote, this would be a little bit different because they're already basing it off the registrations, but how they said the new Prop 4 signatures, they're pre-validated, so they've been tested against the fact that the voters are already registered. They basically screened it out and put it all together like that. You could do a similar thing with having someone registered to vote. The government could check and make sure that they have that this is actually the person who is registering to vote, and that'd be through more resources on the back end, not trying to make it so that literally the people trying to vote have to do more. I don't think that's ever a good thing. I think it should be as easy as possible to vote, especially since non-citizens voting and voter fraud, incredibly unlikely, and usually when it is done, it's done by Republicans. So
the highest rate of voter fraud is LDS missionaries' parents filling out their ballots for them. That is the highest rate of voter fraud. It's not a problem with non-citizens. And if they're trying to pre-validate voters for their Prop 4 repeal, obviously it's not a problem about whether or not it's citizens voting. It's a problem of Democrats voting.
Yeah. And I did a quick Google search here, and my source being the BC. I mean, I'm reading here that in 2016, of the 23 million votes in the general election, 30 were non-citizen votes that didn't count, which means it is 0.0001% of the votes. And for that 0.0001% of the votes, they made an entire legislation. Now, I understand, on paper, it sounds like a good idea. You need your ID to go look you need your ID to go look at the bank. You need your ID if you want to buy something and you don't look old enough. You need your ID for pretty much anything, like getting a library card. You need your ID. So it makes sense. Oh yeah, in theory, go to vote. Oh, here's my ID. But that's not all it is. They're requiring so much more than just flashing your ID. At that, of the, I believe it is 80 million married women in the United States, 80% of them, by this new law, technically wouldn't be able to vote. Or they'd have to pay a stupid amount of money. Not thousands of dollars, but they would still have to pay a lot of money that a lot of Americans just don't have to throw around
or
to just be able to vote.
To go fix all of the things that they would have to fix because their records would all have to match. And if they're married and they change their last name, game over.
What authoritarians do is make it harder for people to vote. And with something like this, it, eliminates millions of people who aren't allowed to vote anymore. And you have Trump, who is pro nationalizing elections. I mean, that takes no explaining. You can see just straight up how bad that is. And to the common, not very educated conservative person, this might sound like a great idea. Like you said, like we're not sitting here saying that having ID or being required to have ID to vote is a terrible thing, right? We're just saying that if you look at the fine print,
the way they went about it,
it is not. It eliminates millions of people to vote, like married women you were talking about, and disproportionately affects marginalized communities, rural citizens, and young voters. So it might seem like, I saw the White House posted on Instagram basically what you said. You need ID to go to the bank, to buy a car, take out a loan, whatever. And we think you should need it to vote as well, which that does sound good, and it sounds like there's no problem. But if you look at the fine details, that's not what it is.
That's a common tactic. People who they'll oversimplify such a big issue and just be like, well, you need your ID for all this. Obviously, you need an ID to vote. And to the average person, think, that makes sense. And then, you look into it. And I mean, none of us here are stupid. We realize he's actively losing seats in the midterms. Like, as it's getting closer, he's seeing Democrat after Democrat after Democrat, and he knows they're going to impeach him. Like, he said it himself. Wow, they're going to find any way to impeach me. They're going to spend all the time impeaching me. Yeah, you're impeachable. And he knows they're going to lose the seats. This is like a very last-ditch effort, a Hail Mary from them. I mean, it's a solid attempt. It would trick a lot of people, and it might succeed. But, I mean, we see what's going on. We actively see how it's being, used against. Sure, if the Senate amended it and they, remove that extra part out where you just need to show your ID to vote, that's great. That works beautifully.
Well, I would just say, with how many ways that you can actually verify, because the fact that you can just sign something like the Prop 4 repeal petition, and then they can verify that you're a registered voter
after they consider your vote of the 200,000.
There should be a way that they should verify, and they do. They verify, I believe, with your social security number and all that, through your vote, who you are. So you don't need an ID. And then also, you show your ID for all these things, but how often do people go to either the liquor store or they try to go to the DMV and they don't have the right documents and then they have to go back home? Do we really want people to be doing that when they're trying to vote? It's like, no, for what? For literally 30 non-citizens voting in one election out of, what was it, millions and millions?
23 million.
Yeah, 23 million votes. You're making it so much harder for people to vote over nothing. And oftentimes when there is voter fraud, it is found out pretty quickly, and the people who are responsible for it get huge fines or prison time. So it's just another barrier to people voting, and I just hate it so much. I think people should just be able to vote and be just vibing and chilling like that, because otherwise what you have is you're going to have a lot of people eliminated, and there's nothing more sinister than elections which go a certain way precisely because of voter suppression. I think that's probably one of the most disgusting things that can happen in America, because then democracy has been betrayed and the will of the people is not being reflected.
Yeah, and I do just want to reiterate that this is absolutely not a black and white issue. Just because you don't support the SAVE Act does not automatically mean that you want illegal immigrants to be able to vote.
Yeah,
right?
We're
That's not what we're saying.
Getting everybody in there is, here's a ballot, go sign.
Yeah, we want ID to vote. That's a good idea, but not like this.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be a democratic republic. We can't be a democratic republic if they're going to make it so people can't vote.
Yeah. On a side note from that, I hate so much how a lot of people on the right will be like, oh, well, we're Republic.
Yeah,
so
I was about to say that.
that makes me so mad. Oh, yeah, we're Republic, so Republican's the right side. One, no, that's semantics. That's just how the word is. And two, being a Republic is a form of democracy. So that makes you a Democrat by that logic. And I think it's the stupidest thing in the world.
Republicanism, which is a hell of a lot different than the Republican Party. If anything, it's antithetical to the current Republican Party. It was created basically in response to monarchy and all that. So it was an alternative to monarchy, which is something that is more reflective of the people. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just straight up democracy, because even when America was founded, only men who owned property could vote.
White men who owned property.
Yeah, white men who owned property. My bad.
No, dude, a quick side note. I remember we had that talk in my English class. No, my history class in high school, right? It was AP World History. Or no, AP American History. And we were sitting there talking, and my teacher, she was Asian. She goes, yeah, only white men who own land could vote. And I look around the class, and in my class in Texas, in Douglas High School, no one in that class would have been allowed to vote. Every single person was in there was either Mexican, black, or Asian, and they were all people of color.
Damn. Yeah, for real. Like, what was I saying?
Sorry.
What was I talking about?
Republicanism.
Oh yeah. So, like, to say that we're a republic, not a democracy, that's just kind of like an oxymoron. And also, the fact that we have elections at all proves that we're a representative democracy, which can then again be a republic. Like, we literally vote in people to represent us on the state level, on the national level, on the
City
local level.
level.
Yeah. Like, so we are literally a representative democracy by definition. So I would just say, I say that to anyone who ever says, "Oh, we're a republic, not a democracy." Okay, why do we have elections? Why is it a representative government? And then because they conflate it with direct democracy. Yeah, we don't have direct democracy. We don't literally vote on everything. In some cases, there are some cases of direct democracy, like Prop 4, which was passed. But most of the time, it is through our representatives, so that's a representative democracy. I don't get what people don't understand. They just say it's a republic because they fawn over wannabe dictators, and they don't like it when the will of the people goes against what they want.
Yeah.
So they just have to say, oh, we're something else than that. No, we're not. You just are mad that the will of the people doesn't align with you, and you want all your power regardless, even though you're in the minority. Like, that's what they mean by saying we're a republic. They're saying, I'm in the minority and I think I should be able to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, do we have any other thoughts on this, or are we good to wrap up?
I wanted to bring up something really quick.
'Kay.
So let's see. So Trump has repealed the 2009 endangerment finding through the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA. So the endangerment finding was an EPA scientific and legal conclusion that greenhouse gas emissions endanger human health and welfare. That finding has been the legal foundation for nearly all U.S. climate change regulations, including vehicle emission standards and limits on pollution from power plants and factories. Without this finding, the EPA says it no longer has the authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions under the Clean Air Act. That means rules on tailpipe emissions from cars and trucks have already been eliminated. The administration claims the repeal will cut regulatory costs and save Americans and industries trillions of dollars over time. So this was, again, done by a man who believes climate change is a hoax because he doesn't have the IQ to understand basic science. And this... So I didn't want to bring up, so this has been in place for 17 years, and the oil industry was not even on board with repealing this act because they've adjusted to these regulations, and they've adjusted to a more greener, I guess you could say, greener approach. They're not all just about oil and money. They do have to kind of adjust to what today's day and age is. Like, we have to take care about climate change. This is a primarily conservative view to repeal this act, and this uncertainty with these regulations just being wiped away that have been in place for over a decade, it creates an uncertainty, which is bad for the economy because businesses it's hard to predict the future and hard to predict the risk that they're going to take. And this applies to Trump's tariffs, where he just applies these sweeping tariffs to, every country, ridiculous numbers, 50, 100% tariffs. And then, 1 week they're there, 2 weeks they went from 100 to 0. They're nothing. They just goes all over the place. And this is terrible for the economy because, again, it's hard for people to do business with these sort of rules and regulations and taxes and tariffs and things like that. A better approach for tariffs would be to go through the legislative process or even an executive order, if that would be possible, and say, over the next 4 years, we're going to increase tariffs on these countries. We're going to increase it by this much, and have a more concrete approach to how it's going to be implemented, so that these companies can plan accordingly and expand accordingly and kind of adjust their risk and all that. So taking this away, I mean, we're already one of the biggest carbon emission polluters in the world, and the UN, other countries are, and China as well, are taking measures to combat climate change, and we're just kind of giving up, backing out of it, and pulling out of Paris Climate Agreement and all that. And then by 2028, hopefully we'll have a Democratic president and put us back in, and that's great. But it also just, again, just so much uncertainty and just back and forth constantly, 4 years every time. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And it just hurts the rest of the world as well as ourselves.
Yeah, it's just really childish how Trump's going about it. He's like, oh, climate change is a hoax. It's not real. Like, you can just see this looking outside. I mean, notably here in Utah, I'm told it's supposed to be snowing constantly during the month of February. I ain't seen no snow.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is literally just like that kid on the playground who's mad that you're on the slide and he's not.
Yeah.
That's who he
We've
is.
made that comparison on here before. He's just like some kid that's like, you're mad. He's mad that you're
mad.
playing, and he's like you're having fun without him. And then you like he walks over and you're like, oh, hey.
He's just over here like, you get a tariff because you made me upset today. Actually, wait. Now you're mad at me for giving you a tariff? No more tariffs for you.
Yeah, I think one of the big ones was from Canada, where people would say like they pumped in propaganda, but it was like a commercial that like made fun of Trump and like called him fat, and then he sent like a 200% tariff on them.
Yup.
Like okay, snowflake, relax.
Literally.
Yeah, conservatives are the new snowflakes.
Yeah,
sure.
they have, especially
after
over the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh my
my
God.
God.
And literally-
an American I don't like. Nah, my own one about this guy who talks about raping kids. Yeah, that's what I want singing.
Yeah.
Just another like quick thing. Today we had a ice walkout here at Weber State University. It was honestly more people showed up than I thought.
Way more.
If I had to guess a number, I'd say 110-ish. I was only expecting like 40. But I mean, it was a lot of fun. The speeches were good, and it was really great. Everyone showed up. We were peaceful. We didn't, at least not that I noticed, got any opposition.
Yeah, there were apparently talks of a counter protest, but they probably tuned into the alternative turning point counter protest show.
They were too busy watching Kid Rock talk about underage
kids.
girls and stuff.
Yeah.
Why isn't he in the Epstein files? He's probably too much of a bum to be in the Epstein files.
Yeah, too big of a loser to get like invited. Speaking of it, like Elon
Musk.
not being invited is crazy. Imagine how genuinely a thought process must have happened to Epstein. He goes, yeah, Elon's a billionaire. He's just so lame. I don't want to rape kids with him. He's just so lame.
That's probably something he actually
Yeah,
said.
he's like, wow, this guy's
doubt
so
it.
uncool. I don't want him at my parties at all.
We should
Yeah.
totally just make WSU Democrats Island.
Like, he
Except
genuinely
it'll
just,
be
like,
good, not
He genuinely
bad.
just did not care. He's like, yeah, I don't want this billionaire coming here. That's probably why he didn't invite Kid Rock either. He's like, this guy's lame as hell. His music sucks. I don't want him
Well,
here.
at first he wanted to invite him, but then he realized he wasn't actually a kid. So then he.
That's probably what happened.
Yeah, we had a really successful ice walkout today. I'm told Macy wants to do more things going forward, so looking forward to that. And of course, all the officer positions that were announced, so it's looking good going forward.
Yep. The congrats to all of the winning candidates. We got the campus affairs director here. Got the vice president. Got the president because no one ran against me. Catch me next February. I'm sure I'll have someone trying to defeat me.
Probably.
But
I'm right here.
I'll win. Oh yeah, I'm right here, bruh. We can do debates on the podcast.
Hey, whoever
Like,
loses, storm the Shepherd Union.
Yep. Yeah. Day 6,
Bruh.
the union.
Whoever wins has to tuck the other one in bed.
Yeah, I was really happy to see the big turnout today, and then obviously all the speeches were really well. I thought I did decent with my speech.
You
I
did
liked your
great.
speech a lot
Yeah.
too. It was really good seeing everyone out there today.
Yep. All right. Well,
All right.
thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the WC Democrats podcast. I'll see you guys later. Have
Yeah.
a good one.